I'm going to mute John.
Good morning and welcome to our WREA Wisconsin Wednesday conversation today. We're going to be talking about protecting your nest egg. My name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors, and my co-host today is Chris Woodall. And we'll introduce Chris here in just a moment, but along with your Executive Director, Diane, and Chief of Staff, Annalise. We would appreciate you joining us today. So we're going to do a couple of housekeeping details and jump right into some really exciting, fun event that's coming up very soon for WREA. But just all participants are in a listen-only mode, and what that means is we can't see you, we can't hear you. But if you've got a question, please use your Q&A feature and type that question in there. Chris will be monitoring that, and if it's something that's specific to your situation, he can answer that back to you. If not, he'll stop us and say, hey, this would be a question that'll benefit everybody on the call, and we can answer that to the group as well. You'll also notice the QR code on here. If you're joining us and you have access to your smartphone, grab your smartphone. We're going to show you how you can get more information about our conversation today. And then we do record all of these sessions, put them out on the WREA website, WREA.net, and you can look at those for future reference, because we're going to talk about some fun stuff today and some things that we've learned along the way. But before we do that, Diane, you want to fill us in on some exciting things, something that I don't think I've ever had any association do before. And I love the fact that you're creating something new. So tell us what's going on.
Yeah, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome. Yes, thanks, John. We are, for the first time ever, kind of going outside the box and doing a fundraiser for WREA. And with that, we're sponsoring a concert of a rising country music star, Trey Taylor, and you see his picture there. And actually, Trey was discovered by Dolly Parton's manager. And so there's a strong tie, to the country music. And the other thing with Trey, he has a passion for educators. He's got educators in his family and really wants to give back to educators. So we are having him appear on June 22nd at the Lakeside Park Pavilion in Fond du Lac. And tickets are currently on sale. And the deadline to purchase tickets is June 20th, so it's coming up quick. And they are on our website, so people can go to www.wrea.net, and right on the front page, you can find the information to purchase a ticket. And it's a small group, but it's more of an intimate kind of a concert where people will have the opportunity to meet Trey afterwards, have pictures taken, etc. So it's going to be a fun time for everybody. We hope that, a lot of people will check us out and come and visit us. Even if you aren't a real big country music fan, come and support WREA and have a lot of fun with us also. In addition to that, check out our events page on our website and find all of the latest events that we have going on. Coming up this fall is our big convention, which is at the end of September. And we have some great speakers lined up. We've got our full, right now it is full. We did finally book our last speaker. And so we're working on our WREA news, which will be mailed out early July, and that will have all of the convention information in it. So, check out the website. You will find a lot of information there. And like I said, under the events tab is everything that we have right now, from meetings to events to everything that people can participate in. So thank you for being here. And John, back to you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Diane. Looking forward to hearing all about the concert and some neat things that are going on up there in Wisconsin. So again, get involved with WREA. My name is John Green. I work with Association Member Benefits Advisors. We are proud to partner with WREA to provide benefits and membership services for the association. I live a little bit north of Houston with my wife, who is a second grade elementary school teacher, and she is teaching summer school. She loves summer school actually more than the regular time of the year because it's smaller classroom, stuff like that. But I've spent the better part of my career in classrooms helping educators understand what their retirement years are like. So I appreciate the opportunity to join you today to talk about our subject at hand. And joining me as co-host today is Chris Woodall, the son of District Manager MJ Woodall up there in Wisconsin. And Chris, you want to unmute there and introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your family and your connections all to AMBA as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. I've been with AMBA for just over 2 years now. I am the right on the picture. Otherwise, we have my brother John, who is also with the company with AMBA, and then our district manager, lovely Miss MJ Woodall, in that picture as well. The little guy below is Bucky. The picture on the left is when we first got him in Chicago. And this picture on the right was just last year. He'll actually be 3 in just 2 days. So it's great. And we love working with our members and trying to help you as best as we can.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Appreciate you joining us today. And again, if you've got questions, drop those into the Q&A, and Chris will be monitoring that as we go throughout here, our conversation today. Just a couple of quick reminders about what WREA does on your behalf. First and foremost, watches out for your pension. You've worked all your career for that. They're here to make sure that that pension stays strong, and one of the strongest in the country, one of the most unique pensions as well. And so WREA does a phenomenal job with that, preserving benefits, holding things like this concert just to make it even more fun to connect with your community, and a great way to support the association, and then offering up valuable benefits, discounts, and fun stuff. And some of those are some of the benefits that you can get through WREA and AMBA, because they can cover some things that you left maybe at the classroom when you left the schoolhouse. They're portable. If you decide to go outside the state, they're not necessarily tied to any network. And you can extend benefits to your parents, to your adult children, things like that as well. But today we're going to talk about what I like to call protecting your nest egg, and protecting your retirement nest egg. As part of that, we're going to kind of walk through and talk about what makes up your nest egg, and then show you an article that we pulled from USA Today several years ago about the 5 biggest threats to your nest egg and how you can kind of protect your nest egg against those threats, give you peace of mind, and then show you some options that are out there for you. So it's a pretty quick conversation today, but we're going to roll through it. And again, if you've got questions, Chris is monitoring the Q&A feature out there. So for those of you who are retired, and we have several more people that have just retired, and hopefully you've joined us, and congratulations on your retirement. But there's 3 main components to a stable retirement income. We kind of like to call it the retirement stool, for lack of a better term, a 3-legged stool. You've got your pension. And as I mentioned, and Diane will harp on this all the time, the pension that you have in Wisconsin is one of the strongest and most well-funded in the country, in large part because of what WREA has done on behalf of their members. So that's a good solid leg that you have. Secondly is Social Security. And for all that you hear the news about Social Security, no matter what party's in power at the time, Social Security is still a very solid leg. If you're already drawing Social Security, you know you got a pretty sizable increase this year as well. So that's a pretty solid second leg as well. Some teachers in other parts of the country don't have that. Again, you have that benefit here in Wisconsin. And then the third leg is your other savings. Because as you know, that just having the ability to have pension and Social Security is not going to cover everything. Saving up money in the long run, those things in your other savings. And that's kind of what we're talking about today as we go through here. So when we're talking about that third leg of your retirement, that other savings, we're not talking about your active pension. We're not talking about your spouse's Social Security or your Social Security. We're not even talking about that mattress money, as my grandparents used to call it. My grandparents that were raised during the Depression, they always kept that coffee can of money, or just your emergency fund. We're not talking about that as a nest egg, and we're not talking about any structured settlement. If you had a settlement from an accident or some type of payoff, something like that, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about those things that you have saved up outside of pension, Social Security, and mattress money, like your 403Bs. You may have contributed $25 a paycheck all throughout your career, or a 401k from a spouse or a previous job, an IRA, a CD, maybe some inheritance that you received from a family member in the past. That's what we're talking about, that nest egg. And so as we go through this conversation, I want you to think about that type of money that you're trying to protect in whatever format you have it in, because this is really where your big threats can come to. And the USA Today posted an article, gosh, it's been close to 7 years ago that it came out, and was updated in 17, of 5 major threats to your retirement nest egg. And in no particular order, and we're going to walk through each one of these, those are taking care of an elderly parent. And so that could be you taking care of your parents, or it could be your children taking care of you at some point. The death of a spouse without any type of life insurance, boomerang children, a medical crisis, or overexposure to the stock market as we get older. So we're going to take each one of these and kind of break down and put some statistics behind it, and then give you just a couple of simple solutions. We're not going to dive real deep. So if you've got questions and you'd like us to take a little bit deeper dive, put those into Q&A and we'll roll through here as we go through. So these are in no particular order, but basically what this article said, that one of the things that is the top threat to your nest egg is taking care of elderly parents. And really it boils down to that none of us ever think once we leave the house and once we start our own family that we're going to be responsible for our parents at some point. But the fact is, almost 3/4 of all care of an elderly parent is provided in a home by an informal caregiver who receives no compensation. What that usually means is that when mom can no longer take care of herself, we have to move her in with us. We have to move in with her. Somebody has to do that. And it usually falls upon the female in the household, the daughter, or a series of daughters that have to take care of that. Sometimes that means that you have to stop a job that you're working. And I've worked with many retired educators that had to retire 5, 10 years before they anticipated because they had to take care of mom or dad. And that stunted their pension. That stunted the income they needed to provide for college expenses for their kids, things like that. So even though we never think it's going to happen, it's an overwhelming number that does. But the good news is we have some solutions. There are some opportunities out there. You can look at a long-term care insurance plan or a home health insurance plan that allows you to not have to spend down your nest egg, not have to tap your 403B or your IRA or something like that to take care of mom. In the case of my brother and I, my father passed away about 2 years ago from long-term care or in long-term care nursing home from the effects of dementia. He had a long-term care plan. It allowed us to take care of him in his home up until the point he was no longer safe and my stepmother couldn't take care of him. But it allowed us then to move him to a nursing home to be taken care of in the manner and dignity he deserved. And it didn't impact my stepmother's retirement savings, nor did it keep us from sending our kids to college. With my mom, we have a home health care plan that basically will pay her expenses for the first year while we take care of kind of getting her financial house in order on the back end. So it gives us peace of mind that we know that mom and dad will be taken care of, and it's not going to impact us providing for our children or my wife having to stop her work to take care of a parent, that type of thing. Number two, as far as the top nest egg threat, is a spouse passing away without life insurance. And within 6 months of the death of a spouse, more than 2 in 5 Americans are going to have some kind of financial pinch. And what the life insurance does is it keeps us to having to dip into retirement savings to pay for our housing expenses or medical costs, to pay for the medical costs maybe that were incurred up until that spouse passed away. So there's some opportunities there that if you can fix that, you don't have to worry about dipping into expenses that you need for your ongoing care. And there are some solutions there. There are some what are called final expense whole life plans that basically just cover the expenses related to a funeral and services that way. For those of you who may have some health issues, there are guaranteed life policies that mean that regardless of your health, you can get a coverage level that does give you some benefits out there. And then in some of the states, and depending on where you may have worked, you can use life insurance to replace Social Security that you may lose when a spouse passes away. Not as big of an issue in Wisconsin as it is in other states, but it is a situation that can be done that way. So life insurance has a wide variety of uses. Most importantly, it helps keep you in the lifestyle that you're accustomed to without having to dip into your savings. And you can't just call the pension board and say, hey, send me more money because my spouse passed away or his pension stopped, something like that, depending upon how that was set up. So again, that's a threat to your nest egg. Probably the biggest threat to the nest egg is a medical crisis. And that's simply because the leading cause of bankruptcies are medical bills in the United States. As good as Medicare is, as good as Medicare supplements are, as good as health insurance is across the board, about 60% of expenses related to the major medical issues, cancer, heart attack, and stroke, those three things, about 60% are not covered by Medicare or insurance. And it's usually those expenses around comfort care, transportation to and from the hospital or the service provider or any type of rehabilitative services beyond a certain period of time. Then you compound that with some surprise billing, as a lot of times Medicare Advantage plans, certain doctors aren't in the network, so they won't be covered, or they've got larger deductibles built in certain things. You get those things that pop up, and it can add up pretty significantly, even though you do have Medicare or you have private insurance. Those type of things can impact you significantly. And so you want to avoid, first, you want to avoid having a medical crisis, but when you do, you want to make sure you've got something that can take care of those things that aren't covered by Medicare or any type of private insurance. There are plans that will cover you and give you a lump sum right up front if you have cancer or a heart attack or a stroke. You can use that money any way you want to. You can use it to pay for copays and deductibles. You can use it to have your son or daughter take off time to come take care of you during your recovery period. There are lots of different ways that you can do that, in addition to accident plans, recovery plans, like I told you about my mother, that type of thing. And then there's massive membership if you have to have medical transportation. Just a helicopter ride to a level 1 trauma center can run in the tens of thousands of dollars. Mass can cover that. And make sure you don't have that medical crisis that puts you at a financial lurch, because you don't want to have to pull out of an IRA and possibly get penalized, or because the IRA is down, you don't want to take money out that is losing money, that can cause you expenses that way as well. So again, you can take care of that in a wide variety of ways. The fourth one, and the one that probably scares me the most right now, is a boomerang children. You were on before we started the webinar. We talked about marrying my daughter off this past Saturday. And my biggest fear for my wife is that our kids are going to move back and home with us, even though they're all healthy and healthily employed and all that. But right now, in this current environment we're in, more households have adult children living with them than ever before. And when you look at the numbers, over half of the households with children who don't live with them are fully retired, meaning they're retired, they're enjoying retirement, they don't have to worry about it. But less than a quarter of the households that have adult children moved back in with them have fully retired. So it's a pretty big difference out there of those who've retired and fully haven't retired because of children coming back. And the only way that we know how to solve this is lock that door. Don't let them come back, change the locks, or make them promise to be your caregiver forever. And we did this webinar in Oklahoma a few months back, and I had somebody pop in through the chat or the Q&A and said, we've told our adult children if they come back, these are the things that they're responsible for. And that has kind of been like garlic to a vampire. It's kept them away because we've told them, we're in retirement. We don't have the funds to pay for certain expenses, things like that. But more and more as children are living, multi-generations living in a household, this can impact your retirement, can impact your savings that you've had out there. So it is a challenge, something you need to be aware of. And then finally, the biggest threat, or one of the bigger threats right now, is overexposure to the stock market as we age. Now, you might have started out putting money away in your 403B or a spouse's 401k or an IRA program, and now you're in your retirement years and you can't afford to take a hit to your retirement savings when you may not have as much time to make it back up. For those of you who remember back in 2007, 2008, when the housing market crashed, stocks went down almost 50%. And people who had retired at that point had worked all of their career only to see their retirement money get halved. You know, fortunately, it came back fairly rapidly, but you don't know when that's going to bounce back. You don't know when that can happen to you. So having a plan to protect that money is very important as we age, because right now it's not like it was in the 80s when savings rates were 10, 12, 14%. And so it's hard to make that back up. And just to kind of show you, the S&P 500 is kind of what we look at because it takes a basket of the biggest 500 publicly traded companies in the United States and looks at that and says, all right, here's what the trends are. Well, when you look at that time period back in the 90s to the mid 2000s, when the stock market went down significantly, it took 14 years from those high points to make it back up. And so oftentimes we don't have that time because we're pulling money out for our living expenses. If you have a huge stock market crash late in life, you may not have ever time to make it back up, and you still need that money out there. We saw this back when COVID hit. We watched our retirement savings drop by 30% in just 2 weeks. So it kind of taught us we need to diversify a little bit. The older we get, we need to have less money at risk in the stock market. I take my smartphone. I have the bad habit of looking at stocks every once in a while, and I'll open it up. And this is one that opened up in January of 2022. Stock market was down, down, down. Bounced back a little bit. It's up and down and all that. Again, at my age, I hope I've got time to make it back up. The older I get, we need to be a little more conservative with that money because we can't afford to take the hit to our nest egg by being overexposed to the stock market. And then I can't just dump it into a savings account right now because the rates aren't that great for CDs. At the same time, inflation's going up faster than it ever has, especially then you look at food and energy costs on top of that are going up. So is there a safe haven to put this money that you're not losing it, but you're staying ahead of inflation? That's what you've got to look for that's out there. And you go back and you look at where the CD rates are and then compare that to fuel oil prices, gas, food, eating out, all those type of things. You can see those costs continue to creep up, and savings rates or CD rates and things like that don't keep up with that. One of the possible solutions to this, to never have to worry about an overexposure to the stock market, is a plan that's endorsed by WREA where you never run out of income, meaning that you can't lose money in this and you have the ability to draw money on it as long as you're alive. Most of us are not afraid of dying, but a large percentage of us, close to 60% of us, are afraid of running out of money in our lifetime, especially in retirement. And I go over and check mom's money all the time. And she says, do I have enough to continue to live? I said, Mom, you're 82, you're good. That kind of thing. So we go through there and you worry about that. But that's really America's number one fear, is running out of money in retirement. You've got a pension system that's strong. You've got Social Security that will be there. Now you've got to think about that nest egg piece there. This plan that WREA has endorsed provides lifetime income. It allows for competitive returns. It allows you to participate in the upside of the market with no downside risk. You're not going to lose money in this, so you don't have to worry about that. But the things that I like about this plan, and I'll tell you why I have this and MJ has this on herself, is there's no underwriting, there's no medical requirements, anything like that there as well. You can put qualified monies like a 403B or an IRA in this, or you can put just general CD savings in there, non-qualified money. It gives you the ability to have long-term care benefits inside the policy. As I mentioned, my father had vascular dementia, and my mother has been diagnosed with a form of dementia as well. That precludes me from being eligible for long-term care. But this plan allows me to put some money into it. And if I need long-term care in the future, it's got the ability to double my payout. Or if I need to pull out money, more money than I have the right to pull out without penalty because of long-term care needs, it allows me to pull that out without any penalty. So it gives me great flexibility and peace of mind knowing that if I have a long-term care need, I've got it covered for my wife and myself. But if I don't have a long-term care need, I have a plan that whenever I'm ready to draw on it, I can draw on it for as long as I live. I will never run out of money, and the money's protected. I don't have to worry about those red numbers in the stock market. If the green numbers happen, it's great. I get some money in my account. If the red numbers happen, I don't lose money. So it's really a neat way to take care of that because we've got to prepare to live for a lot longer. Life expectancies, even after you pull out COVID, continue to go up. If we live to age 65, the chances we're going to live to 90 is pretty significant. And you've got to consider what inflation has done to our money the past 3 years, life changes like health issues, long-term care needs, any type of recovery costs after a hospital stay. We've got to be prepared for that. And so there are ways that you can mitigate that issue, that problem, And there are ways that Chris and John and MJ and the whole team can do that for you as well. So want to make sure that you've got any questions answered. I know we kind of rolled through that pretty rapidly. This is a pretty short webinar conversation. If you've got questions, please feel free to put those into Q&A. Chris and I can monitor that. We can answer that for you. If you've got questions, open up your smartphone right now. Open up your camera feature. Hover over that QR code. A little form will pop up. You can simply answer a few questions in there. Someone from MJ's team will give you a call, give you an email, and let you know what your abilities are, what your options are. If you're on your smartphone or on a tablet and you don't have access to that, my email address is on there. I'm going to come back to this slide in just a moment, but feel free again to use the Q&A feature in there. I want to point out a couple of other things out there. Summer travel season, you have this free benefit for WREA members. It's the Passport program, save you significant money on travel, shopping, dining, home services, appliances, the whole 9 yards. Graduation season, technology, gifts for the grandkids, things like that. Don't forget about that. You can take advantage of those things for you. Great Wolf Lodge, all the hotels up in the Dells are on huge savings up there. Brewers tickets, movie tickets, hotel rent cars, things like that. Savings over $170,000 now in the past year. Take advantage of this. One use of the Passport program will make sure that you get more than what you pay for in your WREA dues that protect your pension and get the fun-free stuff as well. Again, if you want information on that, we'll be glad to show you how to do that as well. This summer, we've got a couple of more webinars we want to share with you. We're going to talk about emergency transportation issues in Wisconsin on July 19th. Talk about those transportation problems, the cost, what Medicare does and doesn't pay. Then we're going to come back on the 23rd of August and really do an in-depth look at long-term care and cover it from soup to nuts and help you understand what long-term care policies do, how they work, and how it can work for you. So again, please, please, please tell your former coworkers, somebody who's not a member of WREA about this webinar series, especially if you know of any teachers who have just retired this past week or so. Let them know about WREA Educational Webinar Series. Then they can become members of the association as well. So I'm going to open this back up for questions. Again, put them into Q&A, put them into chat if you can. Use your QR code, or you can simply email me at john.green@amba.info. So Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you'll unmute your phone there. If someone says, hey, I'm concerned about the top 5 threats to my nest egg, I want to talk to someone, and they use the QR code or email me, what does your call out to them look like? What does a review look like of their WREA benefits? What does that look like for them?
Well, if it's something specific, then we'll get to know some background about them, where they're from, make sure all the information is correct. And then we'll dive into the benefit itself, what they're looking for specifically, how we can help them, what fits in their budget, things of that sort. And then, of course, the approval process, we'll go through health questions and then move forward with that.
Okay. Do you do this in person, Zoom, phone? How do you contact to start with?
All of the above. Typically a phone call, and then we go from there. We do whatever you're most comfortable with. If you want to come, or if you want us to come see you in person, we're more than happy to do that. Zoom calls are always great because no one has to go anywhere. It's very fast paced. And then a phone call as well. I think the Zoom call is just the best because obviously we can see your screen right now. We can do the same with us when we go through the benefit with you online. You can see exactly what we're seeing on our end.
Okay, super. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Chris. So again, you know, when you're looking at what you have with WREA and thinking about, gosh, I'm concerned that I may outlive my money or what my biggest threats are to my nest egg. Again, that's why WREA partners with AMBA to make sure that you have peace of mind. You have worked all of your career to take care of our kids. It is our joy to be able to take care of you. And so please, if you've got the questions, I'll leave the QR code up, my email address up there. Diane, you want to wrap us up this morning?
Sure. Well, I just have a follow-up question for Chris also. Is if someone, I'll make it easy, Chris, don't worry.
Oh, no, you're good.
If someone contacts you, how do you verify whether or not they are a WREA member?
Well, we always have we're able to see if they're active or inactive, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so they do have to be a member, however, to get any of the benefits.
Yes, correct.
Correct, and they have to stay a member while they have those benefits.
Yes, correct.
Okay, right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great point, Diane. That's, again, one of the benefits of your WREA membership is AMBA is able to go to some of the best, most solid providers of coverage at all different levels and say, we have group that we would like to bring to you. They will give us preferred underwriting, better discounted prices that someone could go out individually. But the caveat is they must remain a member of the group. And so that's why it's so important. Your WREA membership is so valuable. First and foremost, it's a small investment to protect your biggest asset, and that's your pension. And Diane will always harp on that because you have a phenomenal pension. I live in Texas. It's not near as good. We are now putting in front of the voters this November the right for our teachers to get a cost of living adjustment. So it's being left open to the general public in Texas. You don't have to have that fight because of what WREA has done to protect your pension and your COLAs and those type of things. Second, you have access to group discounts, money saving discounts, things like that. That all comes through membership. So maintain your membership, become a member. It pays for itself over and over and over again. So thank you for that reminder, Diane. Appreciate that. So again, thank you all for joining us today. We will record this. It'll be out on the WREA website early next week. And if you've got any questions, I'll stay on the line after we stop the recording. You can even hold up your hand on your toolbar, and we can take your question live if you want to, if you don't feel comfortable typing it in there. So again, thank you for joining us today. Chris, thank you for being co-host with us.